Last night on the Smackdown before SummerSlam, we had 2 tag team title matches, and both ended somewhat questionably. The first tag team match that would go on would be the Unholy Union defending their women's tag team championships against the team of Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair. And I know the picture has Jade and Bianca with the titles. I couldn't find a good enough picture for both of them without Naomi there, so I went with this one, but it's fine. Unholy Union defended their titles against Jade and Bianca. So I already felt like this was going to be an iffy one because I just didn't know how WWE was going to have either Jade or Bianca get pinned, and I just felt like they weren't going to take the titles off of the Unholy Union this early, especially after the banger of a match that they had on NXT against 2 members of Meta-4. I'm just a little bit shocked that they went this route, but they did. I thought maybe we would get a heel turn from either Jade or Bianca. We didn't get that, and that's okay. However, the ending of the match poses more frustration for me than a heel turn would have. Now, everybody knows my feelings when it comes to having matches like this where you just have a bailout finish despite the fact that you advertised you were going to have a championship finish. I can't stand it. I get so mad when WWE takes the easy way out by having a championship be, in quotes, defended because of a stupid disqualification finish that makes no sense. And the frustrating part was just that. Blair Davenport had absolutely no reason to interfere with this match. None of it made any sense. We had no reason to believe that Blair had issues with Bianca or Jade. Blair had been in a feud with Naomi, and even though Naomi is friends with Bianca and Jade, that doesn't mean Blair has to go and cost them a tag titles match. Made no sense. And I thought at least Naomi would come out to help afterwards, but no, that's not what happened. Instead, we just got a beatdown of Jade and Bianca, which really was not fun to watch. And I'm starting to think that we're probably just going to set up a 6-woman tag match next week on Smackdown, and that's how they're going to just move on from this tag title match. But somehow, WWE couldn't just butcher one tag title match. They had to butcher the other one too. And this one drove me crazy, and I need to emphasize this before I get into anything. I have no issues with the Bloodline eventually winning the tag titles. I think Tama Tonga is really solid in the ring, and his thing is pretty funny as well. Jacob Fatu might be one of my favorite superstars I've ever watched. Unreal, love every aspect of it. DIY did not deserve to drop the titles this early. A title reign of less than a month for these tag team championships, which we generally had not seen be defended pretty much at all with the prior holders of Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. Then DIY gets a hold of it, and I'm thinking to myself, we finally have workhorse champions that are going to go out there and put on clinics after clinics. But no, we have to use the tag titles as we've always used them in WWE. I would say Triple H era, Vince McMahon era, you name it. It's to further feuds involving the world title. And listen, if people want to get at me and say, well, you know, at least some title needs to change frequently, don't make it always the tag team titles. The tag team titles went from these incredible teams like the Usos, the New Day, holding the titles for a while and bringing prestige to them. Tag team wrestling main evented the last 2 WrestleManias, technically 2 nights, and you know, one of them wasn't for the titles, but you get my point. Tag team wrestling is its own prestige, but WWE, in my opinion, has been constantly using the tag team wrestling, not just the title matches, just regular tag team wrestling, to push forth the world title matches. WWE does not need to just make this new faction, the new Bloodline, and then decide in order to put more prestige onto them, just give them the tag team titles. We did this with the Kabuki Warriors. We've done this with the OG Bloodline. We've done this with the new Bloodline. It doesn't always need to be used to put a faction on top. But unfortunately, it feels like that's just where we're at with tag team wrestling. I feel like the previous regime and the current regime still doesn't fully know how to book a great tag team division. It's filled with a lot of great tag teams, man, but a lot of them are just involved in factions and then just branch off into sections of those factions in order to become tag team wrestlers. But my issue with tag team wrestling nowadays isn't just the booking where, you know, you take members of a faction and you use that to further the prestige of that faction. Because if that was just what they were doing, it wouldn't be that bad. The issue I have with tag team wrestling is it feels like as the mid-card wrestling has taken that jump to feel so important, it feels like the Intercontinental Championship specifically, obviously the United States Champion once it gets off of Logan Paul will feel the same way. It feels like these titles have that element of prestige to them where they feel like that one step down from the world titles, but tag team wrestling, after going from main eventing WrestleMania where you had the Usos and Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, and you go back even even further to the feuds between the New Day, the Usos, even going back to the Revival, OG DIY when they were on NXT. Tag team wrestling feels like it's taken such a drop off to becoming something a part of the lower mid card. But if you don't believe me, just check the PLEs. I know Triple H has a 5-match format, and that's okay when you're thinking about the overall timing of these PLEs and having more important matches as the priority. That's okay. But my issue is, every now and then you can have the tag team titles being defended the same way you're having the mid-card titles be defended. But that never happens, and I don't know why. Because Triple H, who did such an amazing thing by making us feel like the mid-card titles were important titles, because during the Vince McMahon era, there would be plenty of times where the IC championship wouldn't be defended. I think the US title would barely be defended. I think the Intercontinental Championship was left off of WrestleMania not too long ago during the Vince McMahon era. But we're not there anymore, because now the mid-card title, specifically because of the man who held the IC championship, we talked about Gunther, and now Sami Zayn is doing a good job no matter what people try to tell me. And Logan Paul has made the US title feel like a very important, prize, because we barely see it get defended. But the mid-card titles have taken a huge jump, and they're right under the world titles now. But unfortunately, tag team wrestling, where we had tag team titles and mid-card titles kind of on the same level for a while, and then the world titles were all the way up in the sky, the mid-card titles took the jump, but tag team titles stayed in that same spot. So now it feels like they're the only titles that aren't being treated the right way. And watching last night's Smackdown gave me everything I need to know about why tag team wrestling is where it is. Because we didn't need to give the tag team titles to the new bloodline, but we had to use it because we want to further the eventual Usos versus the new bloodline for the tag team titles. And then going to the unholy union, not being able to just win clean as the heels. I know it's crazy to think that heels can still win matches clean. They don't always have to win dirty, and just booking a random disqualification because you didn't know how to handle it. But instead of just being upset about it, I'm going to do a look ahead, because I want to start with the unholy union here, because they're doing a good job in my eyes. I believe they have done a good job with the time they've been given, but let's not have matches always end in some sort of questionable disqualification. I know that doesn't always have to be the case, and I know that's not always going to be the case, but let's book them like champions. Let's have them go across all three brands consistently, defending, and yes, let's put them on PLEs. Find a way to book tag team wrestling on PLEs. And I keep the same energy with the new bloodline. I don't believe they should have just been given the tag team titles to push the inevitable feud between the OG bloodline and the new bloodline, and pushing the Usos to eventually win their tag team titles back. Listen, it's going to be a special moment that the Usos are going to reunite and they're going to win the tag team titles back. And listen, if anybody can actually make the tag team titles feel prestigious again, it's going to be the Usos. But I want this to be more than that. I want the tag team titles to be on PLEs again. I want these titles to feel like the new mid-card titles feel, where it's like, yes, it's not the level of the world title, but it's still special. It's still a championship. It should be celebrated the same way how I celebrated when DIY won it in the first place. The same way that the crowd went crazy when the Unholy Union won the tag team titles. My fear is that instead of DIY getting a rematch the same way we've had these random rematch clauses for random champions, they're not going to get a rematch. They're not going to even be in the title picture anymore. We're not going to see them. They're probably going to have the eventual Tommaso Ciampa turn on Johnny Gargano, the same way we're going to eventually do an Austin Theory face turn against Grayson Waller. It's all just going to be about pushing these singles feuds instead of keeping this tag team together, this tag team of DIY filled with those always underdogs who Johnny Gargano is just he's so fun to watch. He's insane in the ring. His kickouts after getting just destroyed, it's amazing. So what I truly want is for tag team wrestling to feel special again. I don't want it to just feel like a stepping stone towards a furthering of a feud or eventual world title. I understand that that's what these other titles are supposed to be for, like the mid-card titles, but it doesn't have to always be the case. There are some career tag team wrestlers that did it so much better in the tag teams than they ever did as world title holders or mid-card title holders. Jeff Hardy, Matt Hardy, the Hardy Boys, we always talk about them as one of the greatest tag teams of all times. Their singles success was nothing in comparison to their success as a tag team. And if we make tag team wrestling feel special again, we can create some of the greatest tag teams of all times. We can talk about the Usos one day as one of the greatest and continue to talk about the New Day. Maybe we could talk about DIY one day. Who knows? Maybe we even talk about the Judgment Day if they're handled correctly. The Judgment Day one may have been a little bit of a stretch, but you never know. You can make one of these tag teams become one of the greatest of all time if you just treat tag team wrestling like it is special. Start treating it the same way you're treating the mid-card titles. And most importantly, and I mean most importantly, start putting them on premium live events. Stop treating them as just the regular live TV matches. Make them feel important. So let me know if you agree or if you think I'm an idiot down in the comments below, and let me know what you thought of the tag matches we got this SmackDown. Thank you all for watching. I'll catch you next time. Peace.